I am Hannah McKinney. I am the Vice Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, Michigan. I think a comprehensive plan is absolutely critical. And it's critical for both planning reasons, good planning, but it's also really critical for political reasons. Years and years and years ago, in the early 90s, I was on the city's planning commission. And I didn't have a lot of expertise in urban planning at that point, although I am a trained urban economist. It's a different field. It was one of the most amazing experiences anybody could have, because every meeting there was a fight. And it was a fight because we were a built-out city. So anytime anybody wanted to do anything, there was someone who really didn't want it, and we had no comprehensive plan. So it really came down to the loudest voices, the most money, the angriest people. We had real estate people, and we did have a couple of planners, and a couple of nonprofit housing people. So you had good people, but we didn't have a rule book. And that is what a comprehensive plan gives you. I mean, we had the zoning code, but our zoning code was based on whatever. It wasn't based on a plan for the future. So the way that the plan was developed was a very citizen-oriented, engaged process. And when I say citizen or resident, I mean the business community, as well as neighbors, as well as nonprofits. Any interest group that wanted to participate got to participate and actually wrote part of the plan. And it took, we had about 200 public meetings, and then we had a smaller group where we tried, where we kept bringing everything together and making sense of it. We were lucky that some of us had expertise, but that all of us were committed to citizen participation. So the way it worked was we divided the city up into sections that were not congruent with the existing neighborhood associations. And we had meetings on economic development, on transportation, on historic preservation, and then individual groups wrote their part of the plan. And it was that writing their part and then knowing that it would come back to this executive committee that was made up of your fairly typical group of elected officials and business leaders and nonprofit leaders and school leaders. And it was this group of about 20 that actually put the plan together. And then it came back to the Planning Commission and eventually to the City Commission. But it was this inclusive process where everybody's voice was heard, because you don't want compromise. Compromise just leads to sort of ugly things. But consensus, and it takes a while to reach that kind of consensus. And anytime you're willing to put 2 years into doing a plan, you're willing to work toward consensus at the same time. Having good staff is absolutely critical, because there have to be people who understand all of the different kinds of, new planning techniques, all the new kinds of, just the possibilities in planning. And that, without having that kind of expertise backing you up, then it turns political. And I think that all the way through, there has to be a group that's managing the politics of doing a plan, and then there has to be the really solid planning analysis. And if they don't have it in-house, there are lots of consultants out there who do planning, but it's really worth it. I also think that they shouldn't solve problems ahead of time. And by that I mean, when we did our planning, our study parts of the city, if we had tried to solve those, the plan wouldn't have worked, because it would have been too controversial, because we would have had interest groups lining up, fighting about a future they could only dimly imagine. Why bother? And so address the things that are critical at the moment and set the framework for sustainable development in the future, and do it in a way that allows for all of that discontent and controversy to work through a system.